Hi, Anne Davey here, and on this month's episode of Massage and Myotherapy Connect, I chat with two superstars, Kelly Linaker and Grant McKechnie, who have just returned from the Pain Revolution outreach tour. Find out what the tour is all about, the great work of Pain Revolution, along with Kelly's experience on the tour. Hi everyone, Anne Davey here from Massage and Myotherapy Australia, and I've got two fabulous guests here on Massage and Myotherapy Connect, and one you all know, Kelly. Hi.
Hi.
And I've also got Grant from Pain Revolution. So hi,
Oh,
Grant. So
okay.
Kelly, you had one job to talk to Lorimer Mosley and introduce yourself, and then you ended up being a writer. So do you just want to, we'll get to that. Do you just want to
Yeah.
tell people who you are and how you fit into the association and the like?
Okay. Yeah. Hi, I'm Kelly Linaker. I am a myotherapist. Went through sports massage, remedial massage, and spent years working with elite cycling teams. So this was right up my alley. But I'm the chair of the National Education Committee as well.
Awesome. And Grant, we've actually just literally met. So do you want to tell us a bit about your role and what you do and how I've only just found out that you are a myotherapist? Like,
Yeah, so I'd like to first, I would love to introduce myself. I'm actually a dad. I've got three great kids and lovely wife. And I always start with that, which is a bit different to most people. But yes, I was actually started off as a relaxation massage therapist an eon ago. And then I went through
mm,
remedial, became a myotherapist. I'm also an exercise physiologist. And currently, my role is learning and development. So I help with developing resources for education for Pain Revolution. And currently, my big project is sort of revamping part of the local pain educator program, the second year offerings that we're doing. So that's where I'm at the moment.
so I suppose, you know, anyone that's listening and doesn't know Pain Revolution would be living under a rock, I guess. But do you want to just tell us a little bit about, well, it depends on your interests.
It
I get
depends
that.
very, very much so. So it was
Yeah.
something that I think maybe I knew about or heard about quite a while ago, but it wasn't again until this year when we spoke about it and I went back and had a look and went, oh, I think I remember something about that previously.
Yeah. So Pain Revolution, do you want to, it's a charity, am I correct?
So it's a not-for-profit
A not-for-profit.
initiative. So it's
Mm,
not-for-profit initiative set up by Lorimer Mosley and some others through the University of South Australia. That is about trying to bring knowledge and understanding, the modern understanding of pain to the public as well as also to practitioners as well.
mm,
Uh, they have a vision, and the vision is that all Australians have the knowledge and skills and local support to prevent and overcome persistent pain. So that's their vision, or our vision, I should say,
mm.
across the board.
And the right language to use with people who are in persistent and chronic pain. And we also have a partnership with Pain Australia, and I think their stats show 1 in 5 people live with chronic pain, which is pretty massive, really, when you think about it. So I just think that the whole vision is fantastic to get out to not only those living with lived experience and practitioners, but those around them as well to have more of an understanding. So it's fantastic. How long have you been at Pain Revolution, Grant?
So I got my scholarship in 2020.
Hmm.
I'd actually been talking to them prior to that. And in 2020, I received a scholarship to become a local pain educator. And while I was in the middle of doing that, then I got asked to join the education committee. And from the
Mm.
education committee, they then offered me a position. I think I was actually in the middle of my return of service still, while I actually got offered a position to help them with developing resources and the like from that point on. And so I've been involved for a while. It's been uh, very eye-opening. It's also invigorating. And I think the thing I love about going on the tour every year, I've been on, it's my third tour, and it's the energy you get from being around people that have the same sort of goals and that sort of
Yeah.
that vision. So, which is great.
Oh,
Can
thanks.
I
So it,
add to that? The education team now, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of you have gone through the local pain educator program. Is that right? All
Yeah,
of you that were presenting. So at the end of the day, when we could go to the community education sessions and have Grant and Sarah and Mitch present, the energy that they brought to the room was phenomenal. And to know that they've all gone through that program as
mm,
well, so they really get it, they understand it, and then they can work with people, particularly in their hometowns or their areas. So this year, Mitch was from Bundaberg. So that's a huge resource for people that come to those sessions to realize that, I've got this person in my community that I can go to. So it's a
which is,
fantastic thing.
yeah. And of course, we've got our scholarship with Rebecca Market. I always get her surname wrong, I think she's into her second year now. So hopefully we can repeat that for someone else in the next area that um, Pain Rev are looking at. So to the outreach tour. Kelly, do you want to talk about how you ended up in there?
Okay. I was having a discussion with Anne earlier in the year about whatever it was, and she mentioned that she'd been speaking with Lorimer about Pain Revolution and this bike tour and about providing massage support. And I said to Anne, you do realize that was my life? And she's like, no, what do you mean? I said, I've worked with international cycling teams for years. And she's like, right, okay, you need to be involved. And I was supposed to race Xterra off-road triathlon in March on the weekend that the Explain Pain 3, so the EP3 conference was. But due to my ongoing persistent pain injuries over the last number of years, I had to pull my entry. So therefore, I was actually able to attend the conference, and I said to Anne, just send an email to Lorimer, let him know that I'll come and introduce myself and see what we can help to organise. So I went and found him on the Friday, said I was representing the association and to see what we could do. He said, I'm not the person, they're not here. And I said, oh, by the way, I was looking online and I'd watched all the little videos and read everything on the Pain Revolution and the Rural Outreach Tour. And I went, oh, that's amazing. And I don't have anything to look forwards to because of all of my injuries. And normally I'd be racing at a high amateur level, and that's all not there at the moment. And I went, this looks amazing. I want a part of it. I said, registration's still open. So we had a little discussion, and I had to make a decision that weekend, which meant I had to pay out $2,500 and then raise 3,000 and realize that I had to go from nothing to being ready for an 8-day bike ride. And after I met Lorimer, life certainly got in the way. Moving house, overseas trip, a week in hospital with influenza. So I did not know if I was even going to be able to do the ride. So I literally was able to start training 7 weeks before the tour from nothing. So,
And how many Ks was the tour? Do you know? It was about
oh,
800, was
it
it?
was around 800. It probably came down to about 750, I think,
Okay.
because the last day had to be a bit shorter because of the wind.
Okay. So how many riders were on the tour?
23.
23. Oh, that's a lot. And so how much did the tour raise as a whole?
This
Do you
year so
know?
far, because donations are still open,
Open? Mm,
$88,052.
wow. That's fantastic. So that's, and I know, Kelly, you raised a lot more than what you thought you were going to raise. And we've done a little thank you, haven't we, on our socials to the members that supported you and far afield. Do you know where you're at the moment?
So I'm at $7,753.
Fantastic.
So 4,345 came from the members of the association. So that was at the raffle at the conference. So thank you to everybody that bought a ticket there. And then I had a webinar that was chronic pain in athletes, and that raised a significant amount of money. So
Yeah.
that in itself was above the 3,000 that I had to raise. But
Mm.
the money that I'd raised, I have a sort of my two buckets, myself and the association, and I'm ever so grateful for both of them. And when I first put it out, I was worried I'd make $500. And all of the people that first started donating were my clients living with persistent or chronic pain. And they
Mm.
weren't small amounts. They were $50, $100, was pretty standard of what people were putting in. And because of they knew where I'd sort of been with my journey, I said to them, look, I may not be able to ride the distance. This is part of my journey. And they're like, that's not important. It's what
Mm.
you're doing.
Yeah. And Grant, tell us what actually happens because Kelly just talked about the sessions that you present. So the riders have this map that they follow, and there's sort of checkpoints where there's events or.
Yeah, so when they decide where the tour is going to be for a particular year, and quite often that might be associated with a local PHN sponsoring scholarships, those sort of things. PHN, Primary Health Network. So so this year CCQ PHN actually got behind Pain Revolution and effectively donated X amount of money so we could have local pain educators plus another program which we'll talk about later. And because of that, we took the tour there to raise awareness for the local pain educators in that area that come from that area so that they can create what we call local pain collective. So groups of professionals getting together to learn more about pain and discuss more about pain, then that hopefully then that spreads out into their communities as well, which is what we're sort of going for. So when it came to the tour, it was quite a big day. So once they've got an area, then they get as we call him, the captain, Steve Cunningham. He's the guy that actually organises the tour. He's sort of the head of the cycling side of things, and he plans out a, a map of where we're going to be going from town to town to town to town. And once they've organised that, then he has to sort of go do the reconnaissance on it and everything like that. And from that, then basically, we started off this year in Bundaberg. I think we went down to then Gympie.
Harvey Bay.
Sorry, that's right. So was it Bundaberg, Harvey Bay, Gympie, then
Mullaney.
Then we went to Noosa. We had another event there, and then we had an extra night there, which was nice to recharge a little bit. Then we went down to Caloundra, and then we had our final events there. So what happens each day effectively is the cyclists get up in the morning, they get themselves fueled up, and then they start cycling. The support staff, like myself, we throw everything into trucks and everything and drive to where they're going to have their first rest stop. We'll meet them at the rest stop, and then people like Di and Tracy have organised all this great food for them, and then they start eating once they've ridden X amount of kilometres, and then they start and try and go to the next venue, which will be where lunch is, and we get to where the lunch is. And then from there, typically, depending on how long the ride is, there might be an afternoon break, or they'll go straight to where the accommodation will be and they'll finish their ride for the day. Then the education team, which is what I'm part of, steps in, and we then go to the venue, organise, set it all up. And then we either we had, for example, at Bundaberg, we had a practitioners event and also a public event. And then the rest of the time was sort of the combined event, so we could have the public or practitioners in each night. And then we'd teach, and then we'd pack up, and then we'd
Do
do
it
it all
all
again the
again.
next day. And we did that day in and day out. And as I said, it was full on, but very exciting and energizing and amazing to actually see the people that we can reach through this program, because persistent pain's horrible to go
Yeah.
through. And anyone that's had persistent pain understands that. And the people around them also understand that. But when you can actually see that you're not alone, and that's what a lot of the community events do, they start to get people to realize they're not by themselves. And there is a way that we can approach this, a science-backed way that's
Mm.
been well researched now to actually help and get people on the right path to recovery. So
Mm.
that's what the tour's really about when it comes down to it. We want to get that message out there.
So the outreach tour is really just to get the message out. So taking it back a step, what
Mm.
does Pain Revolution do with the funds that are raised, or what, we've talked about that, we know what their mission and vision is, but behind the scenes there's a team of researchers or educators or
So
all of
the
the
fund,
above. Yeah.
yeah, all the above. So basically, the University of South Australia and other universities create lots of information out there. We like to call them gold nuggets of about how to understand how to work with people with persisting pain and help them recover. But the issue early on was these messages aren't getting out there.
Right.
So, so if they've got this great research but it's not getting out there, then well, Pain Revolution is through Lorimer, Dave Butler, those people right in the early days. They basically said, we've got to get it out there. We've got to make people understand this, because there is a way we can help people now. Get people to shift their understanding from the old understanding of pain to the new understanding of pain actually has been demonstrated through lots of research now to be the way to get people to recover, which is fantastic, but it wasn't getting out there. So what the whole idea of the Pain Revolution Tour, the raising of the funds, is we use those funds to create local pain educators, people like myself, people like your member that's got the scholarship, and once they've gone through a professional certificate in pain education at the University of South Australia, they have a return of service. That return of service involves creating a collective, which is involving other practitioners in their area to start to sort of, spread the message or disseminate the message through the local groups, and not just help the people they're working with directly, but the whole community, bring it back to the community. And that's why Pain Rev's focus is really around rural and remote regions as well, because that's been demonstrated through other research as well, that the further away from a major metropolitan area you are, the worse the problem gets. We use the money effectively to create more people, educators that embedded in their community already, but we upskill them so that they can really spread the message and create that ecosystem that we're starting to try and do.
Yeah.
And that's the local pain educator program. But we've now got this new program, which I know you're involved with as well, which is the Community Pain Champions program, which is what's now called. It's gone through a few
Okay.
different names.
Yeah, it has. Yes.
And that's also for people that don't have that sort of degree-based component in that may be embedded in community. They might be a coach, a personal trainer. They could be a relaxation therapist that hasn't got that degree-based knowledge, but they're involved in their communities. They're embedded in their communities, and they work with people that are in persisting pain. And so Pain Rev with CCQ, with yourself, with a few others, have actually created a new program that Di Wilson's in charge of. And that's actually going to be starting next February. And they're looking for people now. So if there's any of your members out there that are interested, then look online, because if you're up in the Wide Bay area, Queensland, there's some scholarships from CCQ, so the CCQ Primary Health Network. But it's also, there's a self-funding option as well that you can also look into as well. So
Yeah.
there's some really cool stuff out there that we're doing, we're developing, and there's more about more going to happen as well.
Awesome. And
Can
I
I
think
just share my experience with that community pain champion? So at the Hervey Bay education session, each of the education sessions will have the education team, and then they'll have somebody generally local that will speak about their lived experience. And in Hervey Bay, there was a lady who was, Kim, was speaking about, she had a brain injury, but then more recently, complex regional pain syndrome. And she'd said, 9 months ago, I would have been sitting in a wheelchair, but she was standing on her own 2 feet. She went through her story. And the big thing for her was that she'd had finally found somebody, a physiotherapist that was pain education, pain informed, and psychologist. And they were the biggest things that had moved her forward. She was a brilliant speaker, and she'd said that she'd founded a not-for-profit. After the session, the education team has a little marketplace set up as well with illusions and other sorts of activities. And Kim came up and started speaking to Chris and myself, just out of the blue. Up she came, chatting away. And, I was asking a lot about her life and how she'd, and particularly about her foundation. And she said that when she first started looking online, there were only American websites, and very devastating consequences of that syndrome, of the outcomes. And she's like, that will not be me. And so she started the Purple Bucket Foundation, particularly for that condition. And I said, have you got any information? Because I've got a friend in New Zealand that's recently been diagnosed and struggling to find information. She couldn't get her card out quick enough. Here's the card. Please tell your friend to email me. And, so that's sort of been able to, flow on, that I could pass on that information. And then when she came out of finishing the session, she came up and she said, oh, I got to meet Lorimer and I got to meet Grant. And I said, fantastic. And she held up a little piece of paper and she said, and I've got a community pain champion scholarship.
Oh, fantastic. Isn't that fantastic? What a
Yeah.
great story. And I think, like what you guys are doing at Pain Revolution and building your networks, it's just going to get bigger and better, isn't it? Like that's a fantastic story, because I think pain is something that's kind of hidden. And I remember speaking to the previous CEO of Pain Australia, and her vision was that everybody speaks about pain the same way they speak about mental health or cancer, and I think with all these initiatives, including Pain Rev, Pain Australia, whoever, it is something that is front of mind for people, whereas it's kind of hidden, isn't it? Or has
And
been.
I'm sure Grant can, attest to this, but how many clients that sit in front of you and say, I think it's all in my head, because they've gone on such a journey that they get to the point where they don't even believe themselves anymore. They're questioning, do I have pain?
Yeah.
And that's becoming more and more common.
It's also
Mm.
sometimes when people, this is why we really want to upskill people with the knowledge and the language associated with pain, because in the early days of pain education, when we really got into it, it became very brain centric, and that unfortunately got carried over into this whole idea that it's kind of in my mind, and it's not the way we wanted it to go. And we're talking a decade or two ago. But the way that we now talk about it, it's a really system-based thing, because when you look at the nervous system in itself, I mean, you've got all these amazing things happening, but you've got all the immune cells that make the synapses work, and it's not just one region of the brain or anything. It's all these different circuits within that are also involved in the spinal cord, the peripheral nerves, the whole lot. And so we're changing the language of how we talk about it, because people do unfortunately get sort of invalidated in their experiences, but from well-meaning practitioners, medical and like, where we might inadvertently say, we can't find any reason for your pain, and that's actually a really bad statement, because we might not find something on a scan, that represents, we can attribute as an influence to your pain system, but we're not, it came across wrong.
That's right. And someone that is living with persistent and chronic pain and has done for several years or several months, it doesn't matter. They're living with it. So they don't want people telling them
No.
how to feel or what to think. They want someone to believe them, I guess, and support them. And, there may be no cure, but there's all sorts of, and there may be, but there's all sorts of therapies that can support somebody in that, in with their journey of pain. I mean, you're a prime example, Kelly, with your injuries. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
done all sorts of therapy, yeah?
Yeah, but going on from what you're saying is that it's not about one practitioner. It's about
No.
building a team. And I work by myself, but I have a referral network, and I'm very often referring out because I want the person to get the best care.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to build. We're not meant to be islands. We're meant to have this whole holistic approach, and also that means building your networks so that we can reach people further out. I was coming home, I was on a plane back earlier in the year, and I had there's a knee osteoarthritis book that's come out in the last year or so, I think,
Yeah.
maybe a bit longer. And I was reading, I didn't realize the lady beside me was reading over my shoulder. And after a while, she says, are you a doctor? And I said, no, I'm not a doctor. And she goes, oh, well, I've been reading your book. And I said, oh, okay. She said, my mother has arthritis. And I said, oh, okay. I said, would you like to read the book? Oh, okay, great. So she read the book for the rest of the flight, finished the book, and went, this is amazing. I need to get her a copy.
Oh,
So,
that's amazing, isn't it? So,
yeah.
I mean, that leads to um, those that do the ride range from a myotherapist to what?
There's a quite a number of physiotherapists, and that's,
Yes,
I think because of where Lorimer's background. And so physiotherapists, exercise physiologists, psychologists.
A
yeah.
couple of
Oh, pain
people,
specialists, anaesthetists.
specialists. Yep.
Wow, it's a
We had
very
some
broad.
people that were just heavily involved in statistics.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So they work in the persistent pain program in Queensland, and their job is to
Get the numbers. Kelly, we do need to do a shout out to the two members.
I was just going to say,
Mm,
and that leads into, we had two members who were able to provide massage support across 4 days that we had.
mm,
Uh, Everybody that had a massage was just so thankful, so grateful to be able to receive the support, because they were on the back of some very big, hard days. Helping them get go on into the next day. But also, so Tina and Fernando, thank you so much. But they also got a lot out of working with the athletes
oh,
and
good.
being able to chat and talk about their experiences, but learn what the riders were going through and their backgrounds. So it was a really nice relationship. So on behalf of myself, thank you, with helping and coming, and on behalf of Pain Revolution and the riders, thank you so much.
So keep an eye out for next year. Hopefully, we can get more therapists there. So,
We'd
do we
love to
know?
have some more, and I think, yeah, people would love some more if we can
Yeah.
have people interested.
Do we
yeah.
know? Have we announced where it is next year yet, Grant, or is that
Yeah.
still a
Yes. So we don't know the exact
route? Mm,
route yet. We don't know exactly which towns are going to be in, but it's going to be what they call the Healthy North Coast PHN, which is the north of New South Wales.
okay.
So around that area.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we've got some members, or I can think of a few actually, that would be very happy to volunteer their time to support the ride. So awesome. All right. So my final question was, how can anyone get involved? So we've talked about the new program. Is there Do you want to elaborate on that, Grant, or is there something else that we can do to?
Yeah, so it depends on how you want to get involved. So number
Mm.
one, if you want to be a local pain educator, the advertising will come out sometime probably later this year, early next year.
And we'll
We,
certainly share that with our
yeah.
members. So
So,
absolutely. Mm.
so if you follow us on Facebook, or if you follow us on Instagram, or obviously check the website as well, which is painrevolution.org. The other thing you can do, same thing with the community pain champions. You can go onto the website and express your interest on that as well. So that's being advertised also on Facebook and Instagram as well at the moment. Click the links if you're interested in doing that. And as I said, there's some scholarships for certain areas that have been put together, but also there's a full fee paying version as well. So you can look into that, and all that. You can talk to Di, and she'll talk you through the process of that as well once you put your interest in. If you just want to follow us along, then you can get onto the website and just go to contact us and put in your details, and you'll be able to get updates on stuff like the National Pain Collective, which is an event that happens every year where we're online and there's lots of like-minded people that, we have different professionals come along each year and talk about their particular experiences. We've had everything from surgeons to even media and how they actually feel part of the whole process as well. So it's important to sort of follow it in that respect. So you could get on there and put your details in and click on I want to hear about up and coming events. And of course, you can still donate as well
Ah.
anytime. You can get on there and click the donate button. But I reckon you donate and you go along to Kelly's page.
Yeah,
And you
please
keep
fly
adding to
page.
Kelly's page because
Page.
then we want to get Kelly above Lorimer. See if we can outdo
Okay.
Lorimer.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
we'll certainly, the details will be below shortly. Yes.
and as I said to you before we got online here, I said I'm quite happy if your members can get Kelly above Lorimer's total. I'll run an online free whatever
Webinar.
webinars
All right.
for the whole lot of
He's
whoever
you've
gets on
given us a challenge, so
there.
I
So
reckon that is perfect. So watch this space, viewers, and we're going to get Grant out. We'll work out a topic and a time, and everything will go to Kelly's page. We've got to beat Lorimer Mosley. Yes.
I never
yeah, I'll
ever
do these
thought
ones
I
in that if
would.
you can do
Yay,
that.
do
Is it
that.
working? There we go.
Yay!
Yeah.
And
And
with
then,
all of that, can I say, if you go to the painrevolution.org website, there's essential pain facts, and you can click on that. So there've been, Grant will know this more than I do because I'm sure you've been involved in it, but there was 8 essential pain facts. They've brought it down to 4. You can click on those and print them off. So I've got them printed now and laminated. So they're in my clinic room. So it's just a good conversation starter for people when they walk in, and or while you step out of the room, they always have a look around and see what's on the walls for something to them to have a look at. So it's a great start to have a look at, and being just getting yourself into this world of pain revolution. I can honestly say that I've found my people who think the same. It was the most supportive environment I've ever found. And that's across the board, from the riders, the support staff, the education team, every single person that's involved with this ride.
yeah,
And then there's also, when registrations open, is that you can apply to ride as well.
awesome. So there's loads of resources at painrevolution.org. So, and as we've just talked about, pain, chronic pain, persistent pain, whatever title you want to put it, I'm sure everybody watching has at least one client a day, one patient a day that comes in with pain. At least one, I would suggest. So thank you so much for your time. Is there any last words that other than donate, donate, donate?
help spread the message as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
Definitely help
yes.
spread the message and keep keep learning stuff, because we all do, and that's probably the biggest challenge in as a practitioner.
Probably my two key things as a practitioner is really listen to your clients, give them the space to talk, and validate. You may not have anything to say that you think is helpful or useful at all, but the biggest thing I find is holding that space and allowing them to speak and allowing their emotions, so that validating that, yeah, it's a really crappy time.
It
And
is.
just having somebody to say, I hear you, I see you, I think is the biggest thing we can do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and watch this space because there's a lot coming up. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.